My name is Marie Pfau. I am a transplant to the Pittsburgh area. My husband and I moved here with our 3 sons 11 years ago in August. I've been married to my husband Bob for 25 years, and we have 3 sons, Andrew, Kevin, and Stephen.
And when I asked you to do this, he said, "But I'm not worthy, you don't know."
Yes, but I'm not worthy.
Yeah. And my response was, none of us is worthy. I think anybody who thinks that they're worthy of this and should be doing something, I'm not really sure. There's always been, and one thing that I've noticed in all the different people who've offered witness, there's been a real profound humility in all of you, and that, I think, is what struck me. The witnesses that you have offered, and just the things that I've seen you doing and hearing you said, like all the others, there was just a real power of God that you recognized and didn't feel worthy. Say, why is God using me, or why is God having me to do these things? And that's what I find especially attractive. And when, with that kind of an obstacle that we overcame to come here today. In looking at the readings this week, that was what you kept coming up with, and that was what you saw in each of the readings today. My tendency was always just to look at what the Holy Spirit was doing, that God sent the Spirit, and what the Spirit was doing. But you looked at the middle part of all the potential obstacles. So why don't you share a little bit of that from each of the readings, from the Acts of the Apostles, the Corinthians reading, and John's Gospel.
When Father Ed first asked me to look over the readings for today, I did. And at first glance, and my first comment to Father Ed was, well, these are your stock Pentecost readings. I'm a lifelong Catholic. I've heard these throughout my life. What's new about them? And then I read them over and over and over again. And coming to looking at them a little more closely, it dawned on me that in each of those readings there's an element of an obstacle. That out of those obstacles came a oneness. For instance, in the Acts of the Apostles, the obstacle of all the different languages that were being spoken, the tongues, and how people, even though there were all these languages being spoken, they could understand because they were their own language. And so, even though there were all these different languages, there was a oneness. The same way with the Corinthians and the part about the body. Even though the body has many parts, there's a oneness to the body. Even should one of those parts fail due to whatever circumstance, you can regain that oneness to your body. And then in the Gospel of John, the obstacle that the apostles had after Jesus' death was that fear of the Jews, and how Jesus came to them and said peace, and through that they overcame that obstacle of their fear.
In the first letter from the Acts of the Apostles, I have to admit that's one that we do kind of wrestle with. Yes, I've heard it, and they're so familiar that we really don't pay attention to them that much. But God, a potential obstacle with all those languages didn't stop God from allowing his message to be heard. That he wanted all peoples to hear this, to be one, and to know what his love is and what his truth is about. And then we had another example in the second reading from Corinthians. We were talking about the many different parts of the body and working together in that unity. And you mentioned the example of soldiers coming back from war who've been severely wounded, lost limbs. That was an image that you saw on the television.
Right, right.
And go on, you tell the story.
It occurred to me, and I don't know why, I just kind of blurted this out in my conversation with Father Ed about the body, how all of these young men and women who have been injured in Afghanistan and Iraq, some of them very severely, losing limbs, sometimes losing both limbs, either both legs or both arms, and then having to retrain their bodies to function and to help them continue on with their life. And I was following a young Army officer who was previously injured in Afghanistan and lost both of his legs, and I'd been following him on social media. And throughout the course of many months of rehabilitation, he was able to do push-ups. He'd lost both of his legs, and there was a footage of him actually doing push-ups with his torso. You know, it's just with no legs, no help of legs, but just his upper body strength, and it just amazed me how much that took for him to do in all those many months to retrain his body to do that.
And the example for us in faith is that, you know, God wants us to be fully alive. Whenever the situation like this, you don't stop living. My spirit is with you. You know, even in large communities, to try to rehabilitate people who parts of the body that have kind of slipped away, hands that no longer want to function or don't like to function, but to try to get them back in and to do that. And in the gospel, you had a visual image regarding the upper room.
Well, I just picture that room as being the room that is throughout that whole period of time in the Gospels, the room where the Last Supper occurred, and then this, I'm just assuming it's the same room that they retreated to after Jesus' death. And it's always come to me as a very visual image that I can picture, that's where they were, that's where they gathered, that's where they felt a oneness, being together in that place.
And that's where the body comes back together.
Right. That's where the body of the church comes forth from.
Now, as far as it being the upper room, I did check it after you had that image, and what I found was that they aren't sure. They're not saying, no, it's not. The site, the building that is considered the upper room cenacle right now, is only from the 12th century. But they found there's so much archaeological stuff underneath it that it could have been. Nobody will ever really know for a fact, but that building was not there, 2,000 years ago. But that's one of the popular beliefs that really was one and the same place. So these are all obstacles that Jesus, the Spirit of God, did not let get in the way of the message coming forward. And that's kind of been a lot of things in your life. Your work in the pro-life movement. You've done a lot of things there.
Yeah, one of the things that I've been involved with here at St. Alphonsus has been promoting pro-life ministry. And I came to that by my involvement with the Christian Mothers Women's Guild. I was asked a number of years ago by a very good friend of mine, Lloyd Craig, if I would take over that aspect of the Women's Guild as the woman who had done it previously was moving away. And having had a little bit of involvement in my previous parish in Virginia, I said yes. So I've ever since been doing that, and some of the things that I've done as part of that is I handle the baby shower that we do every October for the Rosalia Center. I coordinated the March for Life bus a number of years ago through the encouragement of Father Terry O'Connor, who previously we had not had a bus, and he said, oh, come on, let's get a bus, we'll fill it, let's do it. And I was very hesitant, but we went ahead and did it, and we did fill a bus on a couple of occasions. We were able to take buses down to D.C. That's now done through the youth ministry, and a lot of the teenage kids were able to go on the March for Life in Washington. And then I also am involved outside of the parish in the 40 Days for Life movement in downtown Pittsburgh that occurs every fall and during the Lenten season, where we stand vigil outside of the Planned Parenthood clinic on Liberty Avenue.
So confronting these parent obstacles to make sure God's message of love and compassion comes forward. And then with the mercy baby that's here, that was a part of what?
Yeah, that was again part of the pro-life ministry that was done by Nikki Bruni, who is the coordinator of the 40 Days for Life here in Pittsburgh. She painted that last year, and it represents, it's an image of the Divine Mercy image. However, if you get close to it, which I encourage you to do, there are blocks, individual blocks, 240 2,470 blocks of babies' faces, and that represents the 2,470 babies that were lost to abortion here in Pittsburgh in 2012. And the interesting thing about it is she described last night when she was here after the 5 o'clock Mass, the 14 stars that are surrounding that image are the 14 babies that we know were saved through pro-life efforts at Planned Parenthood during 2012. So it not only represents babies that are lost, but also babies that were saved.
Those of you on the new side, you have to take the time after Mass to come over to the old side and to check out the painting. It is absolutely phenomenal. And one of the things we're asking everybody to do is that throughout the week after you take a look at it and reflect on it and pray about it, to either on the Facebook page or on through email to info@stalphonsuswexford.org to send us your thoughts on it. We'd like to collect those and put them on the website itself. You know, what did the painting mean to you? What did it cause you to think of? Or anything that might have maybe made you to be aware of and want to commit yourself to something. But just to take the time to make that image something more concrete in words. And then one of the big obstacles that we encountered together was all the media stuff here in the parish. When I first got here and a year and a half ago, the website was kind of dismal. Yeah, you and the Chuggles were doing the best you could as volunteers with real lives to keep this thing going. But then what happened after that?
Well, I had been involved as a member of pastoral council. We developed tried to be bi-weekly newsletter, electronic newsletter called the St. Alphonsus E-News. So I was doing that, and then was trying to, we had struggled with having somebody do web content management on our website. So I stepped in and was trying to do some of that with my limited knowledge of websites. But we were able to convince Father Murphy that we needed to make a bigger commitment to electronic media for the parish through the website and the e-news. So we set forth and we were able to hire Cindy.
She's behind the camera right now.
To take care of that for us, and she's doing a great job, and got the website totally revamped, and it's much more user-friendly. Has a lot of great information on it, and then it's also doing a great job with e-news.
And we'd like to thank those of you in the congregation for telling other parishes about how good the e-news is, because we're getting calls from them, and they want to start doing something like that at their location. That, you know, the word is out there that we do have some things that are pretty good, and people want to be a part of that, and they want to share in that and update what they have. And you've been maintaining and treading water with that all those years, you know, knowing that at some point along the way there were relief, and with your persistence, there really was. I used to write this before that. You don't like to have obstacles stick around too long. You really do want to find ways to get around that. So there's a lot of opportunity. You know, when we speak the truth, when we share what is good in God's love, when we allow God to do something significant inside of us, when we allow the Spirit to move us, and to not say, nah, I don't have time, or that's somebody else's job. Whoa. You know, if you and I had lived by that's somebody else's job, not a whole lot would be done. And our lives would be kind of miserable. But you found joy, and you found peace. And your faith and your family life have worked well together. And Marie, thank you very much for taking the time to be with us today.